Welcome back to the deep dive. You ready to get emotional?
As ready as I'll ever be, I guess.
Okay, good, because today we're diving deep into emotional intelligence.
EQ.
EQ, exactly.
The hot topic everyone's talking about.
Right. And to guide us, we have David Walton's Introducing Emotional Intelligence.
A fantastic book.
Yeah. This book, it's got like a 3.64 rating and over 1,000 reviews.
People love it for a reason.
Gotta be good.
Yeah, and it's
So we're going to break it all down for you.
hopefully make EQ a little less mysterious.
Yeah. So I used to think emotional intelligence, this was all about like, keeping it together at work.
Not crying in the bathroom.
Right, like not having a meltdown when your boss is a jerk.
Yeah, yeah.
But turns out it's so much bigger than that.
It really is.
This book, it really dives into how EQ, it might actually be more important than IQ.
Which is a pretty bold statement, right?
Yeah, that's a big claim.
But when you think about
It
it,
kind of makes sense.
it does.
Like when it comes to happiness and success,
actually achieving your goals.
yeah, EQ, it's like the secret sauce.
It's not just about being smart. It's about being smart with your feelings.
Okay, so how does Walton define EQ then? What's the big idea?
So he really emphasizes how EQ, it's different from IQ.
Like, they're not the same skill set at all.
Not at all. It's not just about book smarts.
Uh-huh.
EQ is about understanding and managing your own emotions,
Okay.
but also reading the emotions of other people.
Oh, interesting.
It's like,
Like a different kind of
a
intelligence?
different kind of intelligence, yeah.
So I'm picturing, like, you've got the brain,
Right. Yeah.
and you've got the IQ part.
like the logic center.
Yeah. And then you've got this whole other section for EQ.
Well, it's all connected, but yeah, different areas of the brain are involved,
Okay.
like the limbic system.
That sounds very sciencey.
It is, especially the amygdala.
Your amygdala, got it.
That's all about immediate reaction.
Like fight or flight.
Exactly. And then the prefrontal cortex, that's where we regulate,
So it's like one part's freaking out, the other part's trying to calm it down.
basically.
Fascinating.
And the more we develop that prefrontal cortex control, the better our EQ.
Right. So it's like a muscle you can train.
Exactly.
Okay. So why does all this brain stuff matter? Like, how does strong EQ actually help us in real life?
Well, think about it. A
Mhm.
tense meeting with your boss,
Oh, I know those.
comforting a friend who's going through something tough.
Pure EQ moments.
Those are all EQ.
Yeah.
And the research is pretty clear.
Tell me more.
People with higher EQ, they tend to have better mental health.
Less stress, less anxiety.
Less anxiety, less depression.
Okay, I'm listening.
They're even 25% less likely to experience burnout in those high-pressure jobs.
Oh, 25%. Now you're talking my language.
Right.
Because burnout is real.
It's a real problem, and EQ can help us manage that stress hormone, cortisol.
Okay, sign me up.
Right.
So how do we get started with this whole EQ thing?
Well, the book breaks it down into 5 parts.
Okay, lay it on me.
We've got self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills.
5. Okay, I can handle 5.
And self-awareness, that's the foundation.
Like the base of the pyramid.
Exactly. You can't manage your emotions if you don't even know what you're feeling.
It's like trying to drive with a blindfold on. Okay, so how do we see? We're talking therapy levels of introspection here.
Well, therapy can definitely help,
Sure.
but there are simpler things we can do.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Walton suggests regular self-reflection.
Just taking some time to think about what's going on.
Exactly. Even journaling can be really helpful.
Oh, I love journaling.
It helps you unpack those thoughts and feelings.
And see what's really going on, right?
Yeah. And another big one is identifying your triggers.
My triggers.
What sets you off emotionally?
Okay.
Like if you get super anxious before every presentation.
Oh, presentations, yeah. Those get me every time.
That's a trigger.
So it's not just something to suffer through.
No, it's something to investigate.
Hmm.
Once you see the trigger, you can figure out why it has power over you.
And maybe find ways to manage it.
Exactly.
Knowledge is power.
Even when it comes to our own little quirks.
I like that. Okay, so once we're self-aware, what's next?
Then comes self-regulation.
So we're aware of our feelings. Now we got to manage them.
Learn to manage them instead of letting them run wild.
Sounds like a challenge,
It can be.
but it's possible.
Definitely. It's a skill.
Okay.
Like learning to ride a bike.
It gets easier with practice.
Exactly.
All right, I'm feeling hopeful.
Good, because Walton dives into some really helpful techniques here.
Okay, give me the goods.
He talks about cognitive restructuring.
Cognitive restructuring, that's a mouthful.
It's basically challenging your negative thought patterns.
Like those negative thoughts that just spiral out of control.
Yes, instead of spiraling, you hit pause.
Okay. Pause.
And you ask
What
yourself,
I'm asking.
is this thought even true?
Good question.
Is there a different way to see this?
So it's about catching those thought gremlins before they take over.
Exactly.
I like that, get those gremlins.
And it's not just about squashing the bad.
Oh, there's more.
It's also about building positive vibes,
Bring on the good vibes.
doing things that bring you joy, practicing gratitude.
I can get behind that.
You're actively creating an emotional environment that supports well-being.
Create an environment that makes me think about empathy and how we impact others.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's where EQ gets really interesting.
It does.
That outward ripple effect.
Yeah, because empathy, it's more than just saying, that's sad.
It's deeper than that.
Walton breaks it down into 3 types.
3 types. Okay, hit me.
We've got cognitive empathy,
Cognitive.
emotional empathy,
Emotional. Okay.
and compassionate empathy.
Compassionate. All right, let's break those down.
So cognitive empathy, that's about understanding someone's viewpoint.
Even if you haven't walked in their shoes.
Exactly. You're getting where they're coming from intellectually.
Okay, I get that.
Then you have emotional empathy.
Okay.
That's feeling what they feel, connecting on that deeper level.
So it's like actually feeling their emotions.
Yeah, like really feeling it in your own body.
Wow, that's intense.
It can be. And then there's compassionate empathy,
Okay.
which compels you to help based on that understanding and feeling.
So it's like you understand, you feel, and then you're moved to action.
Exactly.
Okay, I think I'm getting it.
It's like, let's say your coworker is stressing over a deadline.
Oh yeah, been there.
Cognitive empathy is you understanding why it's a big deal to them.
Right, like they've got a lot riding on it.
Exactly. Emotional empathy is you actually feeling their stress.
Like my heart's racing just thinking about their deadline.
Yeah, and then compassionate empathy is you offering to help.
Or just lending an ear, being there for them.
You nailed it.
Okay, I'm feeling good about this empathy thing.
Good, because the cool thing is, there are exercises for boosting all 3 types.
Oh, tell me more.
Active listening is huge.
Active listening, we've heard that before.
It's not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Right.
It's truly focusing on what the other person is saying.
With their words and their body language.
It's like becoming an emotional detective.
Picking up on those subtle clues.
Exactly, and then there's perspective taking.
Putting yourself in their shoes.
Even if you initially disagree,
That sounds like a recipe for some serious growth.
it is.
And it all ties back to that initial self-awareness we talked about, right?
Absolutely, the more you understand yourself.
The easier it is to understand others.
It's like building a bridge between your inner world and the world around you.
I love that. Building bridges, that's what it's all about.
It's all about connection, right? And that's where these social skills come in the last piece of the EQ puzzle, according to Walton.
Yeah, it's like you can be super self-aware, have all your emotions perfectly balanced,
A Zen master over here.
but if you can't actually interact with people, what's the point?
Exactly. Social skills are how we apply all this EQ stuff in the real world.
It's putting it into practice.
Yeah, how we build relationships, communicate effectively, work together
Just navigate all those tricky social situations we find ourselves in.
without completely falling apart.
Right. So what does good social skills even look like when we're talking about EQ?
Most people think they're pretty good at this already.
I'm a great communicator.
We all think that, right? But then we hit a snag and things go sideways.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But Walton, he stresses that communication, real communication.
It's more than just talking.
It's about connecting, listening, being open to other viewpoints, expressing yourself clearly.
So it's a whole skill set in itself.
It really is.
Okay, so are we talking like active listening, but on a bigger scale?
It's definitely part of it.
Not just waiting to talk, but really tuning in to what other people are saying.
And it's not just about getting your point across, it's about understanding theirs, too.
Like a two-way street?
Exactly.
Give and take.
And then there's conflict resolution,
Oh, that's a big one.
which could be a whole other deep dive, honestly. Oh, yeah, for sure.
But in the EQ context,
How does that fit in?
it's about approaching conflict, not as a battle to be won.
Not trying to crush the other person.
Exactly, but as a chance to grow and learn together.
Okay, so stay calm, see their side, find a solution that works for everyone.
You got it. And that really loops back to empathy, doesn't it?
Yeah, I see the connection.
When you understand where someone's coming from emotionally,
Even if you don't agree with them logically,
it's easier to find common ground.
like disarming a bomb instead of setting off another one.
Perfect analogy.
So it's not about avoiding conflict altogether.
No, conflict is a natural part of life.
It's about handling it constructively.
Exactly, with EQ.
Okay, I like that. And one thing that really struck me reading this book
What's that?
is that EQ, it's not about being a pushover.
Right, it's not all about being nice and agreeable,
Walton talks about assertiveness and setting boundaries.
which can seem kind of opposite to being all feel-good all the time.
Right, it's like, how does that fit in? Well, assertiveness is about communicating your needs clearly and respectfully.
Standing your ground but not being a jerk about it.
Exactly. It's that balance between honoring your own feelings and being considerate of others.
Makes sense.
And boundaries are so important.
Why are boundaries so important in this context?
Because without them, resentment builds up,
Oh yeah, I've been there.
and then relationships suffer.
Nobody wins.
Right. So let's say a coworker keeps dumping extra work on you.
Ugh, the worst.
You can be assertive and say, hey, I'm swamped right now, gotta prioritize my own stuff.
And that's not being rude.
Not if you say it respectfully.
It's about being clear about your limits.
Exactly, without attacking the other person.
So it's like that sweet spot between doormat and jerk.
Which honestly, I think we could all use more of these days.
Right. It's like finding that middle path where you're strong and kind at the same time.
It's a delicate balance, but so worth it.
So we've gone through all 5 parts now. Self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and these crucial social skills.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is. And it's amazing how they all build on each other.
They do. It's not just isolated traits.
It's like a whole system, an interconnected web of EQ goodness.
I love that. A web of EQ goodness. And what I really appreciate about Walton's approach
What's that?
is that he makes it feel doable.
Like, we can actually do this.
Exactly. It's not some mystical, unattainable thing.
It's practical.
It's skills we can learn and practice and improve.
I think that's really important for people to hear because I'm sure some folks are listening like, great, 5 more things I got to worry about.
Right, like add it to the list.
But you're saying it's more like leveling up, not adding to the to-do list.
That's a great way to put it.
So we level up our EQ, we handle life's curveballs better, we're more adaptable, more resilient.
It's like having emotional shock absorbers.
Love that. So big picture, why does all this EQ stuff even matter?
It's about more than just less burnout and better communication.
What's the ultimate impact?
Walton ends the book with this really powerful thought.
Okay, I'm listening.
Imagine a world where everyone understood and practiced EQ.
That's a big idea.
Think about how different our interactions would be, our workplaces, even our communities.
It's almost utopian, isn't it?
It is, but also kind of daunting.
Like, where do we even start to shift a whole world's EQ?
We start with ourselves, right? One conversation, one interaction at a time.
Okay, that makes it feel a little less overwhelming.
It's not about fixing everyone else.
It's about focusing on our own growth.
And thankfully, we're not alone in this. Books like Walton's, workshops, courses, even apps.
Resources galore.
It's about taking that first step.
And who knows, maybe this deep dive is that first step for some of our listeners.
I hope so.
So we've covered the what, the why, the how. Any final wisdom nuggets before we wrap up?
It's a lifelong journey, this EQ thing. It never really ends.
Always room for growth.
But I hope what people take away from this is that EQ, it's a superpower we all possess.
It's within us.
And it's not about being perfect. It's about making those small, consistent efforts.
Those daily choices.
A daily gratitude practice. Noticing your triggers. Truly listening to someone.
Those little things add up.
They really do.
It's not about overnight transformation.
It's about those small steps.
Well, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into Introducing Emotional Intelligence by David Walton.
We hope you enjoyed the ride.
It's kind of funny. We talk about EQ like it's this superpower, but it's also like a paradox, right?
A paradox. How so?
Well, we're talking about understanding these really deep, intense, sometimes messy emotions,
Yeah.
but then it also helps us like stay grounded, be more resilient when things get tough.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It's like, which one is it?
You're right, it is a paradox in a way.
Yeah.
Because EQ, it's not about denying those difficult emotions or suppressing them. It's
Oh.
about learning to navigate them.
Like work with them, not against them.
Exactly. It's like, think of it this way.
I'm thinking,
We all experience storms in life, right?
oh yeah, metaphorical storms
EQ gives us the tools, the skills to weather those storms.
without being completely swept away.
Exactly.
I like that.
Like having an emotional anchor.
To hold on to when things get rough.
A perfect analogy.
And the more we practice these EQ skills, the stronger that anchor becomes.
Exactly. We can handle stress better, conflict, setbacks.
Without losing ourselves in the process.
It's huge because let's be real, life can be pretty chaotic.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
And in a world that feels increasingly polarized and divided, EQ is more important than ever.
You think so?
I really do. It allows us to connect with people who might have different opinions, different backgrounds.
Bridge those divides.
Exactly. Build empathy bridges instead of walls.
I like that. Building bridges. That's a good one.
And those bridges, they're essential for creating a more compassionate, understanding world.
And it all comes back to connection, doesn't it?
It really does.
You know, one thing that's really stuck with me from this whole deep dive
What's that?
is that idea of EQ being contagious.
Oh, yeah, I love that idea.
Like, if we work on ourselves, we can actually inspire others to do the same.
It's true. We all have that power.
It's like a ripple effect,
Our emotional energy, it impacts the people around us.
whether we realize it or not.
Exactly. When we're calm, grounded, empathetic,
It creates a positive atmosphere.
that others can feel and respond to.
So it's not just about us, it's about creating a more emotionally intelligent world for everyone.
Exactly. And that brings us back to Walton's closing thought in the book.
Oh, yeah. What was that again?
He asks us to imagine what the world would be like if everyone practiced EQ.
That's a big question.
What if schools taught it alongside math and science?
Wow, that would be amazing.
What if businesses prioritized it in their hiring practices, leadership development programs?
The possibilities are endless.
That's a powerful vision.
It really is a world where people are more self-aware, more empathetic, better at communicating, and resolving conflict.
Sounds pretty good, right?
It does, but it also feels kind of, I don't know, far off.
Yeah, I get that, like a distant dream.
But every step we take towards developing our own EQ, it brings us closer to that vision, right?
Absolutely. Every little step counts.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into emotional intelligence, let's leave our listeners with a call to action.
Okay, I like that.
What's one small thing they can do today to start cultivating their EQ?
I would say start by paying attention to your emotions.
Just notice how you feel.
Yeah, notice how you feel in different situations. What triggers your stress response? What brings you joy?
Be more aware of what's going on inside.
Exactly. The more aware we are of our own emotional landscape, the better equipped we are to manage it.
That's a great place to start.
And remember, there are so many resources out there to support you.
Books, workshops, online courses.
Even apps these days.
Take advantage of what resonates with you.
And most importantly, be patient with yourself.
Yeah, it's a journey, not a destination.
Developing EQ, it's a lifelong process.
It's not going to happen overnight,
There will be ups and downs.
but stick with it.
The rewards are worth it.
Well, folks, that concludes our deep dive into the fascinating world of emotional intelligence.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
And remember, the power to create a more emotionally intelligent world, it lies within each of us.
Until next time, keep those minds curious and those hearts open.